Hi, I'm Dean Walker, founder of a little outpost in the interwebs called Living Resilience. Also, the grandfather, if you will, of a YouTube channel podcast that's been going for about 10 years now called The Poetry of Predicament. And this body of work being called Living Resilience and Poetry of Predicament. The purpose of this work has been to support a couple of, to me, very important communities on the planet for these past 10 years. Those communities are the collapse aware and collapse acceptant communities. Um, what our assertion is that we're not just anticipating some future collapse, that we're actually in the midst of human-caused collapse of both Earth and human systems. And while this can seem like a dismal and doomer-like topic to stay focused on for so long, I would assert that this is one of the most extraordinarily alive and creative and relationship-based people I have ever had the privilege of connecting with, being with, sitting in circle with. So it's those circles that I'd like to speak briefly with you about now. I'm recording this on Friday, September 5th. And uh, this is September 2025 is the last month of a year-long course that we've called Islands of Sanity in a Mad World. And the purpose of this course from the outset has been to track and hopefully expand our personal and collective awareness of our mental health, our relational health, and our spiritual health in these times, in these daunting times of intense polarization. And it has been a wild ride. While we do have some course material each month that we've posted in our what we call our online community space, a Mighty Networks space, and that I think that material is quite important to have a baseline that we share, a shared language about what's going on, and also a shared language of how we might be able to be more and more effective at holding space for one another when we do come together into these circles. It probably doesn't need much explanation why in January of 2025, the nature of this work shifted radically. It's not that we didn't have enough existential risk going on to contemplate and to deal with in this coursework. But of course, we have quite extraordinary circumstances going on since Trump 2.0 took over in the USA and the ripple out effects around the world. So we are living in a different world now than we were certainly a year ago when we started this Islands of Sanity in a Mad World. Again, how this course has gone is that we have some amount of online course material, a couple of videos to watch, maybe a couple of items of beauty and inspiration for each month to be able to keep us afloat more or less. We have also had our Zoom meetings here on the first and third Saturdays of each month since September of 2024. This is September of 2025, and we will be meeting tomorrow, Saturday, September 6th, and on Zoom here for the first of the two final get-togethers for this course. You are welcome to join us. And this means that you may have never heard of living resilience. You might have very little understanding of or appreciation of this whole collapse aware and collapse acceptant. What is this stuff? Uh, we would just invite you to keep listening, if you will, to this brief video introduction to tomorrow's sessions, and then on the 20th, the third Saturday in this month. Um, Again, you are invited, and I would invite you to listen for anything that sparks something for you. You know, like I can tell you what sparks me about these sessions where we all come together to hold space for one another. This is a place where I feel safe and I feel held and I feel invited to be able to express myself fully, including the more awkward or challenging or difficult emotions um, that I am certainly feeling the full range of. And I can safely say that many people who experience this work feel that safety to more fully feel and express that which is rumbling inside of them in the wake of what's going on in the world right now. So, again, you are welcome to come and join us for what ends up being approximately a 3 hour session. It's approximately an hour and then a half hour break, and then approximately an hour on the second session on this first and third Saturdays in September of 2025. The link for these sessions is in the show notes. So hopefully you will avail yourself of that and join us. And the times for those two sessions, they're going to be from 7 to 8 tomorrow morning, September 6th, Pacific time, 7 to 8 Pacific time, and then a half hour break, and then approximately an hour session following that from 8:30 to 10 a.m. Pacific time. So that's the logistics of it. I'd like to tell you a little bit about some of the roots of this work and of this course that we're finishing up. Before I do that, I'm inviting you for a very specific reason, because it seems like this is a time for people to come together with kindred spirits like no other time in history. I thought it was important 10 years ago, and really thought it was an important thing to do back in 1974, when I had my first insights and messages, very strong messages, that we were on a self-terminating track. I didn't know when it would be happening. I didn't know exactly how, but the messages were quite clear, and that's a long time. But for now, we're coming together with kindred spirits in the face of us, particularly what's going on in the USA and the energetic and, most importantly, the actual physical kinetic violence that now underscores everything that's going on in the USA. This is a time to come together with loved ones, with kindred spirits. This is a work that is meant to come in and affect us in a way, invite us in a way to inhabit the other end of the spectrum. If we could call this business as usual world that we're in, uh, a world of deep polarization, of deep disorientation, quite intentional disorientation and decentering of people. That everything about our media, our government, corporate communications, and education is meant to take us off center, away from, if we can imagine ourselves having an inner seat of common sense, inner seat of embodied wisdom, that it has been taken away because our very attention and that center are the coins of the realm in our entire culture. That's what pays the bills. That's what makes the profit at scale these days, is our cultivated and captured attention. So if we're not, and excuse me, one last piece on that is there's something I've been fond of calling the 24/7 fire hose to the face of too much content. Uh, a particularly well-known political pundit calls it flooding the zone. We have been flooded and we will continue to be flooded, and it's just going to get thicker, bigger, more intense, 24/7 fire hose to the face. So if that's on one end of a spectrum in this business as usual way of being and living, what we're hoping to do, intending to do, crawling together toward is to expand our capacity to be present and centered in the face of whatever's coming our way. How we do that, I often call it soul work. If over here is just linear and the repetition of highly manipulative control of the narrative at every level, over here, I would call this soul work. And I'm certainly not alone in that. I did not invent that, but this seems to be the only place where we can find true respite. So, soul work is embodied. Soul work is being present to all the dimensions of our inner life, which includes the darkness, which includes the shadow, which includes also that cultivating, rich zone from which life and creativity is able to come out in a emergent way in its own time in the life of a person who is inviting that emergence. That might not quite make sense. And what I'd like to do is play a video for you. It's just a very brief video from one of my mentors in this collapse aware and collapse acceptant world is one of the pioneers of transformative experiential workshop um, assistance for those of us who have been aware of these existential challenges for a long time. And this is a fairly recent, very, very brief video clip from Joanna Macy before she died recently. And she's had decades and decades of extraordinary impact on the world, and particularly on the activist world, on the world of people who care about our relationships with other people, our relationships with the earth, and our relationships with the sacred. So here's just a brief bit of Joanna Macy's contribution to this conversation of collapse acceptance.
You know, in so many ways, the civilization that we've been part of, based so much on hyper individualism and on private property, so much of that has been shrinking to the human spirit. We hardly have any idea of the reserves of creativity and inventiveness and patience and endurance and inspiration that are there for us, my dear ones. It's vast what is there for you and for me and for all of us as we tune in. And there are ways of tuning in that we're finding, and some that you've discovered. And trust them. Trust the love that comes in you, that erupts in you for life itself, for all beings. Trust that. Trust your impatience sometimes when you think there must be a better way of conceiving this. Trust that, and just and garb yourself in the patience of intense creativity. Listen to the wild thoughts that are there. Listen to the wild thoughts bringing us home, The great turning is that flame in the heart, that vision and that commitment that will take us through the hardship and will help us bind us to each other to work together toward that vision. And it's not just a light at the end of the tunnel, but it's how we get through.
So, Joanna Macy, they're speaking about the great turning. That's one lens that we can look at our current world and see us as a turning, a conscious turning together. She also speaks about a great unraveling, which I would argue is actually more to where we are. And it's not a binary, it's just a proportion of where our attention is and where our consciousness is. So it's we are unraveling and we are turning. And there's some amount of conscious awareness between us, and there's some amount of the development of a conscious relationship with one another across all known boundaries. This is a time of coming together that I think will be surprised in these coming next few years, where some of our um, kindred spirits will show up. I predict that there will be some crossing of those right now terminal boundaries, things that keep people apart politically, philosophically, religious wise. Yeah. I think this is an opportunity for us to come together as things fall apart. That another mentor that I have deep respect for and appreciation for in terms of the realms of shared grieving experience, not just grieving alone, but also when we can come together in a good way to grieve with others and metabolize the depth of grief that we carry as a culture, as a neighborhood, as a family, as an individual. And that's Francis Weller is this person's name. And so that realm of shared grief is, I don't have words for the amount of positive impact it's had on my life to be in a consciously held environment where we grieve together. That's one aspect that is a core piece in the ongoing work of living resilience. We'll be again closing up shop for this year-long Islands of Sanity in a Mad World course, but we will be giving birth to, so to speak, another course cycle that'll be more streamlined, be shorter, it'll be more compact, but it will also still have those opportunities to come together and be able to um, see a particular time in these coming months and years and to see it through a particularly conscious and deliberately created, crafted lens. That's what I'm inviting you to come check out briefly on this first and third Saturday in September of 2025. There will be recordings of these sessions. There will be more and more announcements about the new work. So if you can't make it to these ones, well, you'll tune in to the Poetry of Predicament podcast or come and join us in the online community space where you can find online courses, support groups, other resources. So I don't want this to go long. I need to just get this invitation out to you. I hope that you will consider very seriously coming and join us. Join us either for the or both the first Saturday or the third Saturday in this month of September 2025. The times are in the show notes below. The link is in the show notes below. My contact information, if you have any questions, you're so welcome to contact me. And I really just hope that we all come together, in a way similar to what Joanna was just saying. What if we were to tap into a heretofore unrealized, untouched capacity for being creative together, to being related, deeply related and connected in a time of great separation and polarization and hate? What if we were to find those inner resources and bring them into circle with one another to find new ways of creating, new ways of relating, new ways of imagining what a great turning might actually look like? There's something that is really precious for me at the center of that brief message from Joanna Macy was that it's not about the end result or getting us back to normal, back to like the pandemic. There was this constant screaming for, let's get back to normal, get back to normal. Well, we have gotten back to normal, and unfortunately, that has had extraordinarily destructive uh, results that came with it. This is truly a time to generate a new way of thinking, a new way of being, a new way of relating. And it is our hope here in Living Resilience that we can be of service in some way and create supportive environment and resources and practices that could assist us in this great turning. Thank you for considering this, and I hope to see you on the Saturdays or in this new iteration of coursework. That's the soul work that we're going to be putting out. I believe we're going to be starting it on October 1. So please stay tuned to the Poetry of Predicament podcast, and we will keep the announcements coming and look forward to meeting you, hopefully sometime soon in a circle near you.